all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of More Content Talk. That's the only show that cuts through all the glam, the glitz, and all the bullshit to bring you the truthiest news that we can find. All right, everyone. Well, it's Black History Month. It's been Black History Month. I, of course, have something prepared. I didn't do it at the beginning of the month because there was so much in the news that I thought was really worth covering in depth, and I wanted everyone to be prepared for the oncoming onslaught of propaganda, the continuing attempt by the Republican Party to drive the Democratic Party into ruin. I'm very passionate about that, so I devoted a lot of time to that. But I also have several episodes coming up on Black History Month, and this is the first in a series of several that will probably go into March, because to me, Black History Month never ends. I live it every day. I'm black, so and I'm proud of it. And I know it's kind of become, the suave new chic thing to kind of like pretend that you're not black, and because being black now, if you act like you're black, then you're a radical Muslim in America's mind. And that's preposterous. I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam. I have no desire to be a member of the Nation of Islam. I don't necessarily have a problem with people who are members of the Nation of Islam. I may have a problem with the way the Nation of Islam conducts itself, but that's their business. And basically, the way I look at it, they stay off my lawn, I stay off theirs. And they've never come on my lawn. So it's interesting, and it's always fascinating to me to see this little, kind of thing that goes on in popular media, where it's like, well, you can't be that black, It's you can only be black during Black History Month, and even then, like, you got to kind of tone it down a little bit because you got to go to work. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm so beyond that. It's one of the reasons I curse on my show. It's one of the reasons I started a show. I don't need to impress you. I don't need to act the way you tell me to act. There's not a proper way to act. English is not your language. You didn't invent it. There's people who weren't even born in this country who will lecture you on the proper way to use words, and you can't say that way. You weren't even born here. I was. I didn't want to be born here. I don't want to come here. You have an idea how many people lecture me on how lucky I am to be here? All the time. All the time I hear it. From liberals, conservatives, all of them. And they all sound so fucking stupid. Because, when you choose to come to a place, you're more likely to prosper. You're more likely to actually make something of yourself. Because it was your fucking choice. You decided to come here. A lot of your ancestors, that's what they did. They made a conscious decision to come to this fucking nut house. And it worked out. A lot of times, you come to a nut house, it's a business investment. Because there's a lot of crazy fucks all over the place, and you can stake your claim and make a lot of money. Now, the problem with that is that sometimes those crazy assholes, they realize you got money and they come for you. And that's what's going on right now. You don't want to admit that. You want to make it more complicated and about, like, morality or some stupid idiocy, which has nothing to do with politics. Nothing. Politics is an entirely separate entity from morality. Don't admit it. I don't care. I'm a political scientist. I know that. And people like serious people like Paul Krugman and stuff like that, they know. Mark Zandi, these guys. This is no game. This is you have to enact policy. And you can make it about labels all you want. You can make it about getting up there and playing a harp and acting like you're doing God's work. And then, push comes to shove, right? And who's keeping the electricity on? You know what I'm talking about. It's a disgrace. There's people dying in Texas because of this godly politics, this moral politics that you people have developed. It's a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Everyone should be ashamed of themselves. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed that I let it happen. I'm ashamed that I let this go on for so long without saying anything. You're seeing the parallels between 1950s America and today is sick. And so I wanted to look at how we got here. And, obviously it starts with slavery, right? I didn't come here because I wanted to come here. My ancestors were forced here, forced to come here. My father was very unhappy for various reasons. Society, they want to wipe it away. They just want to say, well, if you're unhappy, it's genetic. Well, isn't that convenient? Then society doesn't have to work, right? Well, look what happened from that philosophy. Your whole society collapsed because of that philosophy. Because you thought that, oh, well, if we just classify it as a mental disorder, if we just classify sadness and unhappiness and just, not being fulfilled and maybe being bored, if we just classify all those things as mental disorders, and then eventually we can outlaw them, which is what always happens, and then, we won't have to have responsibility for anything. Won't that be nice? And isn't that moral? And that's where it always ends. That was the eugenics movement. That was the ultimate culmination of that. When idiocy is allowed to go unchecked, and people are just allowed to call people things and say, oh, well, that's lesser person, and they don't really matter. You get things like eugenics, you get things like slavery. So let's look at the black history of this particular nasty attitude and what it does to people. I'll be reading from the life and times of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass is mostly noted as an orator and writer, but he was also a philosopher, and he had some very interesting ideas, and he embodied the liberal idea of God, the Christian God, that in my opinion is very much now dead in America. People have forgotten this God that existed in the liberal mind in the 1860s, especially in the mind of the slave. They've forgotten what it stands for. They've forgotten that it had more to do with liberation than people act like it does today. And I don't know why people have forgotten that part. I don't know why people think it's okay to just pay people shit wage and, that's fine. Just go about your business. Sure, it's not slavery. But how do you get to slavery? It doesn't start with let's just go get those people and throw them in the back. And no, you start off with the labels and you start off with demeaning people. And this is my point. Remember, in the concentration camps, you had slave labor. That's what a concentration camp is. Slave labor. So you almost had it in Nazi Germany. You didn't quite get there. It's not chattel slavery. Sure, you want to use labels. Fine, use labels. But they were still slaves. They were forced against their will to do work. That's slavery. So of course it could happen again. Don't let people tell you otherwise either, because that's preposterous. All right, here's some passages from Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. This is about the life of being a slave, and he goes into great depth, and I'm not going to be able to get through all of it, but we'll start with some tonight and then come back to more on a different night. So here we go. The reader may like to know why, after I had so grievously offended Mr. Covey, he did not have me taken in hand by the authorities. Indeed, why the law of Maryland, which assigned hanging to the slave who resisted his master, was not put in force against me. At any rate, why I was not taken up, as we usual in such cases, and publicly whipped as an example to other slaves, and as a means of deterring me from again All right, this is from the Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. The days between Christmas Day and New Year's Eve were allowed the slaves as holidays. During these days, all regular work was suspended, and there was nothing to do but to keep fires and look after the stock. We regarded this time as our own by the grace of our masters. and we therefore used it or abused it as we pleased. Those who had families at a distance were expected to visit them and spend time with them the entire week. The younger slaves, or the unmarried ones, were expected to see to the animals and attend to incidental duties at home. The holidays were variously spent. The sober, thinking, industrious ones would employ themselves in manufacturing corn brooms, mats, horse collars, and baskets, and some of these were very well made. Another class spent their time in hunting opossums, coons, rabbits, and the other game, but the majority spent the holidays in sports, ball playing, wrestling, boxing, running foot races, dancing, and drinking whiskey. And this latter mode was generally most agreeable to their masters. A slave who would work during the holidays was thought by his master undeserving of holidays. There was in this simple act of continued work an accusation against slaves, and a slave could not help thinking that if he made $3 during the holidays, he might make $300 during the year. Not to be drunk during the holidays was disgraceful. The fiddling, dancing, and jubilee beating was carried on in all directions. This latter performance was strictly Southern. It supplied the place of violin or other musical instruments and was played so easily that almost every farm had its juba beater. The performer improvised as he beat the instrument, marking the words as he sang so as to have them fall pat with the movement of his hands. Once in a while, among a mass of nonsense and wild frolic, a sharp hit was given to the meanness of slaveholders. Take the following for example. We raise the wheat, we peel the meat. They give us the corn, they give us the skin. We bake the bread, and that's the way. They give us the crust, they take us in. We sift the meal, we skin the pot. They give us the husk, they give us the liquor, and say that's good enough for nigger. Walk over, your butter and the fat. Poor nigger, you can't get over that. Walk over. I want to read that for you one more time. And by the way, all you intellectuals out there talking about how awful it is that the kids these days, how they talk like this, how awful that these kids talk like this. You know the reason they talk like that? Because they know you're full of shit, and they know that you built a country on slavery, and they're ashamed of you, and they want to be like those people. And you know what? Good for them. And shame on you. Shame on you going around and correcting people's English as if you're some sort of hot shit. You're not shit. You ain't hot shit. You're not shit. Correcting people the way they speak. You're a fool. That's the way that slaves used to speak. That's your ancestors. Our ancestors. America. Our history. Not black history. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And stop making these young girls feel sorry about their hair. They have nothing to be ashamed of. They did everything for you. Just like it says in this song. Listen to the song. We raise the wheat, we peel the meat, they give us the corn, they give us the skin. We bake the bread, and that's the way. They give us the crust, they take us in. We sift the meal, we skin the pot, they give us the husk, they give us the liquor, and say that's good enough for nigger. Walk over, you butter and the fat. Poor nigger, you can't get over that. Walk over. This is not a bad summary of the palpable injustice and fraud of slavery, giving as it does to the lazy and the idle the comforts which God designed should be given solely to the honest laborer. You hear that? The comfort that God designed should be given solely to the honest laborer, not to the lazy motherfucker. But what happens in society if you really think about it? And see, this is a God that, look, the honest laborer, the God of Frederick Douglass is a God that was a God of the honest laborer, the worker, the working person. You get it? You get why the left leans a little bit toward, whatever ism you want to call it this week, but it's really just social democracy, which is what it's always been since the Civil War. Idiot. It's programmed into history. You can't change it. Be a libertarian all you want. You're just going to go nowhere. You notice how you're going nowhere? It's going to stay that way. You can't change history. You can't change the fact that there were slaves. I know that's what you want. You want to pretend that there weren't slaves? I'm not going to let you. To enslave men successfully and safely, it is necessary to keep their minds occupied with thoughts and aspirations short of the liberty of which they are deprived. A certain degree of attainable good must be kept before them. These holidays served the purpose of keeping the minds of the slaves occupied with prospective pleasure within the limits of slavery. The young man could go wooing, the married man to see his wife, the father and mother to see their child. The industrious and money-loving could make a few dollars. Oh boy, I'm sure they love that. The great wrestler could win laurels. You still see these idiots fighting in COVID. They got masks on doing UFC fighting and shit like a bunch of morons. That's what he's talking about. He's making fun of you dumbasses. He called it years and years ago. That's all you need is a little entertainment. You'll just stay like an idiot doing the same shit over and over again. Yeah, they got you marked. They know. They know because of slavery, and that's how they treat you. They treat you like that. Yeah, no, it's not slavery. They're not beating you, but they got the game. All the entertainment is right there. You see how they kept these slaves in line? They gave them the exact same shit that you have. The same shit. It's just this shit is nicer. The South, they don't have as much nice shit as they have up in the North. And there were huge labor disputes in the North. You don't know history. The young people could meet and enjoy each other's society. The drinking man could get plenty of whiskey. I just need a little liquor. You look like a dumbass. You're an idiot. And the religious man could hold prayer meetings, preach, pray, and exhort. Yeah, there's plenty of religion in slavery. Plenty. You didn't get shit. You didn't get anything. You have the same shit that you had back then. You see it talking about money, they make you a few bucks. Here you go, take a few bucks, leave me alone, be a slave. Shut up. That's all it is. Before the holidays, there were pleasures in prospect. After the holidays, there were pleasures in memory. And they served to keep our thoughts and wishes of a more dangerous character. These holidays were also used as conductors or safety values, to carry off the explosive elements inseparable from the human mind when reduced to the condition of slavery. Before these, the rigors of bondage would have become too severe for endurance, and the slave would have been forced to dangerous desperation. So how about that, huh? What do you think of that? What do you think of the damn fact that sounds like most people's lives? Oh, well, give him a few bucks. Give him a couple extra bucks so he shuts up and go back to work. You want another holiday? You want to go to a sporting event? I got free tickets. That's what they used to do in my job. They used to give little free tickets to go on bus rides. I always told them, no, I don't want to go. And we'd be like, how come you don't want to go? It's fun. Because it's just to distract you from real shit. Real problems in the working place. We had all these terrible, I won't say where I work because I'll get in trouble because it was never proven, because you can't prove shit to these, because the idiots, they walk all over you, and you got a bunch of morons for coworkers, and they don't want to look into anything. They want to rock the boat. But anyway, long story short, this place I worked had a mold problem. Okay? They did. And, but there's certain amounts that you have to test for, and there's regulations and whatnot, and they didn't meet the criteria, but people were still getting sick. And in the meantime, they're giving people all these prizes and little pats and rewards, and patting them. Look at you, you're such a good worker. And then meanwhile, people are breathing in the mold. So nothing changed. They just treat me. Then this is what I'm talking about. This is how they pacify you with this slavery thing. Anyway, I'm gonna read one last passage from this, and then we're gonna end the show because I'm running low on time. Here we go. What? Am I to argue that it is wrong to make men brutes, to rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to keep them ignorant of their relations to their fellow men, to beat them with sticks, to flay their flesh with the lash, to load their limbs with irons, to hunt them with dogs, to sell them at auction, to sunder their families, to knock out their teeth, to burn their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters? Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollution is wrong? No, I will not. I have better employment for my time and strength than such arguments would imply. What then remains to be argued? Is it that slavery is not divine, that God did not establish it, that our doctors of divinity are mistaken? There is blasphemy in the thought. That which is inhuman cannot be divine. Who can reason on such a proposition? They that can may, I cannot. The time for such argument is past. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could I reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. Like me. You know why I am the way I am now? For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed. And its crimes against people must be proclaimed and denounced. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty and unholy license, your national grace and greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States. Frederick Douglass. Happy Black History Month. I agree. I know that you don't hit me with a whip, but I know that I almost died on a train and no one did anything. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm black. You haven't convinced me. You won't convince me. I don't believe in your morality. I reject it. It's time for like he said, not light, but fire. I'm not going to light your house on fire, but I'm going to light Twitter on fire. I'm going to light it all on fire. And I'm going to be that righteous awakening that he's talking about from a very unrighteous place. And I hope you get used to it because I'm not going anywhere. Hey, you want to sponsor us? Go ahead. If not, don't. No sweat off my sack. You can do it by liking and subscribing on YouTube, More Content Please MCP. If you like food, check us out on TikTok, More Content Please MCP. I do a lot of keto cooking there. You can also find us on Pinterest at More Content Please MCP. You can also check us out on Anchor, and you can sponsor us on there as well if you want to. But if you don't have any money, like I said, it's fine. I'm not necessarily doing this for the money. It's maybe a little bit of money from my son, but that's it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this very important episode of More Content Talk. I love Frederick Douglass. He's inspired me to be who I am today. And now you know why. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.